Still not electronics, right? We're going to take it from where we last left off. The just painted shell. And we're going to add all of the little bits and bobs that make it kind of sparkly and interesting. And we're going to start by making a couple parts. This right here, is a 1/8 PT by 90 grease fitting. It's not the exact piece, right? But it's close. But since it's a grease fitting, the little end here is got a spring detent, and that's not going to work for what we're doing. So I have a little bitty bit of aluminum. It's just a hollow aluminum tube. It's 1/4 inch, by the way. And I cut a small piece. I'm going to use my clamp here to clamp and squeeze the two pieces together. That gives us something that looks like this. No, this right there. Oh, for the goodness. There we go. So that is very close to what we see on the Proton Pack. It's not exact, but it's close. It's just a bar clamp. Nothing special about it. I'm going to put the two pieces together. Come. So this is very hard to do with the camera in the way. And squeeze. There. Nope. Still too close. Hold on. Let me back you up just a little bit. So when I tighten this down, it squeezes the aluminum part onto the brass part, right? We're going to put our wire in there, fill it with resin, and that makes the piece we need. The other piece we need are these little caps, right? These little caps right here. Still not in focus, but close enough. There's a bunch of them on the pack. I was trying to figure out how to best adhere these, because it's just a hollow cap, and it occurs to me, since I'm going to have my resin out in a minute anyway, I have a bunch of these 1/4 bolts that I am just going to set in these caps, just like that, and fill with resin. The resin's going to bind to the post and to the threads, and lock it in place. And then I'm not going to have to worry about nothing. The nice thing about these is there's a little dimple on the very inside that this kind of rests on. I need 4 of these, but my pack has this weird little fitting here. This little fitting here, that's been it's resined in place, so I could snap it off and put one of those on, but I think that's a little closer to original, so I'm going to leave it. The rest of them could look like that for all I know. It's hard to get super good reference, but I'm going to make these, and these will work just as well. And since I'm just using a 1/4 bolt, if I want to replace it later with something different, it's way easier to do. Everything I do. If you notice, it's kind of shiny. That one's not. I don't like the shine. That is not nearly as shiny. Right? So it's got a lot of shine to it, and I don't like that. I want it to be more flat. Steel wool knocks the shine completely down, right? If I take some of the paint away, it's just going to get down to the silver anyway. So just rub everything with a little bit of steel wool, and that instantly dulls down the shine and makes this absolutely perfect. And if I miss a spot, it just looks like it's a shiny part of the pack. So this one's very shiny and that's flat. I can keep scratching with this steel wool. And there's some silver. That's the base coat shining through. Now check this out. Do the same thing with this one. It looks so much nicer. And if I wear it away too much, I'm just going to get the silver base coat and it's just going to look like more weathering. And since I'm not going actually for Stance's pack, I'm not trying to worry about weather patterns. If I wanted to go 100% screen accurate, yeah, I would be way more inclined to be a little more accurate with what I'm doing. But I'm just weathering my own pack, so it doesn't really matter. The first thing I'm going to do now is just go over everything. A little bit of steel wool to dye down the shine. And then we'll pour some resin. We'll start putting stuff together. We got 2 red on this one that are coming straight out. So I'm going to drill a hole in 2 of these. And I'm using, I know the original had tubes and all kinds of weird stuff. I'm just using 12 gauge stranded wire. Seems easy enough. I want to line everything up, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be, cut my wire, and then we're going to drill some holes and fill it with resin. So for the first one, we're coming from here down around to the top one, which is right about there. I think that's about right. And it goes from this bottom one to right about there, I'd say. I don't have 12 strand or 12 gauge stranded wire in blue, so I'm using 14 gauge, just a little smaller, and it's solid. And it's for this line here. And then the other one's supposed to be a yellow. Couldn't find yellow anywhere. I mean, I found it in a huge spool. It was like $150. That's crazy. But I have my little electrical wire, which I think will read fine in the long run. So I'm going to cut a blue that goes up, and then a yellow that goes back down. Since I'm going to fill this with resin, I want to use the smallest hole possible. So the first thing I want to do is strip the wire a bit so I can see what I'm working with. So that's not a very thick wire. And because I like my fingers, I'm using a clamp to hold everything. And because I like my table, I'm using a board to drill into. Luckily it's brass, and brass drills real easy. So that fit perfect. I want to go way through and untwist this because I want everything out and kind of pushed flat. So when I put the bolt in, it'll curl up around it. Now with luck, when I dump some resin in here, it's not just gonna, go everywhere. But that looks pretty alright. So one of them has something coming through the side here. I'm not quite sure how I want to do that just yet, because everything's supposed to be covered in this weird 1/4 inch loom, split loom stuff. I don't know if I'm doing that. You can't see what we're casting at all. Since I don't like mixing up small amounts of resin, I have a couple of pilot molds I need to do some things with. Just a couple of drops in here, just enough to fill everything up. Everything else is going in there. Now we wait. So it did leak just a little bit on the fitting. Nice thing about brass, especially with resin, a little bit of razor blade takes that right off. I did the one on the side, by the way. So both of these go on the side here by the rail. And I want to wait to put the other end on until I have this hole drilled and I know exactly where everything's going. Which is next, which is what we're about to do. So I'm going to drill a couple holes, mount everything. So drill a hole, and I'm just threading the end through, putting on a bolt, and just letting that be. So for these two holes, I just drilled a hole that was tapping size and used the bit itself to go in there to thread the opening. This tube, or this wire, I mean, is going to get a 1/4 inch split loom. Just slides right over. And it's going to get threaded into the other end. But what I did with this, let me do on the other end, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's start with a pilot hole. Verify this is the right piece. And then I'm just going to thread this in. It's going to cut its own grooves because it's fiberglass, or it's just resin versus the metal of the bit. And I have the exact length I need for this wire. It should be right about there. So I'm just going to cut that right there. And then we're going to 5-minute epoxy all these wires in place. I want to talk screen accuracy for a moment here. These ends, they're not accurate. Well, I mean, they're accurate, but they're not the exact ones, right? On these two tubes, there's supposed to be a little bit of split loom and a little bit of split loom and a little same down here and here. I'm not doing that. I 3D printed a bunch of these little parts, right? They're just they emulate the look of the split tube, and I'm gonna epoxy them in place. And then I'm going to epoxy some wire in there. Because the wire is supposed to be a tube as well. I'm not going for screen accurate here. If I wanted screen accurate, I'd go back to the 501st and do stuff there. Which I do, by the way. It's not just... It's Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, you're allowed to be a little more relaxed. I have the actual transistors that I'm supposed... that this pack is supposed to do. But I 3D printed up some because I like the 3D print a little better. And in the end, this is my Proton Pack. I can do what I want with it. Little bumper spring. I didn't like the cast one. Didn't turn out nearly as well as I was hoping. So I 3D printed one, which will look fantastic. Right there. Screen accurate is a great thing to go for, but it's not the end all be all. Took it off, and I've drilled 2 holes in. So the wires can just kind of slot in. And then the end cap's going. That looks really nice. I like that. It's simple. It matches okay. Like I said, the original had tubes, and these are split loom. They're just little cut pieces. I didn't like that as much. It's my Proton Pack. I do what I want. I've got simple Loctite epoxy. It's just a 5-minute epoxy. Mix up a little batch of it. Stop making so much noise. This went with a simple clear epoxy. Pump out a little pile. Why are you not doing it? I may have an issue with my epoxy. Because the catalyst is moving fine, or the resin's moving fine, but the catalyst seems to have seized up. That is unfortunate. Okay, I have Gorilla Glue. Apparently, I left my Loctite out a little too long. Let's see if this is still good. We're making a small batch because this may not work, which will be unfortunate. Pull out the wire, put a decent amount on it. We're going to give that 5 minutes and see what happens. Seems to have cured. This one's still a little sus, but I think if I leave it long enough, it'll be fine. Enough that I'm going to progress with the rest of this. Luckily, since this is hollow, I just drilled 2 holes. I can feed these lines through and bend them in place so I don't have to worry about them falling out. So I'm just going to glue the other 2 on down here, and then the little transistor looking piece, right, goes right here, and then this yellow wire feeds into it. We'll pick up after that. I'm just going to glue these stuff on. I'm going to glue these pieces on, and we'll pick up in a minute. So this is what I meant when I said I could feed it through. I have these on. These will help hold everything in place while I glue them. And maybe bring them just a little closer. I don't know. I think I like that a little better. So I can move these out, put some 5-minute epoxy in, push them back in place, and let them do their thing. So we're installing the ribbon cable now. By installing, I mean, you know what I mean. This straight part is supposed to be on the end. I don't want that. I want a little more room because I may be doing something weird. I know, right? Shocker. Just going to line it up. I'm going to put it where I want it to be. And then just mark the end, right? It's got a nice gentle curve. I have nothing to cut with over here, so we're going to cut real quick. This does have wire in it, so you need to be, cognizant of that. Try not to use your best scissors. I have a little piece of aluminum that I have already cut and drilled holes in. It's going to hold this in place. So this can kind of accordion a bit. So I'm going to push it in just a touch so it's on either side of the bolt. It's nice and snug. And then I'm just going to screw it in and bolt it down from the other side. We'll pick that back up and we'll pick this back up in a second when I'm done with that, because this is awkward. In my infinite wisdom, I just put down some 5-minute epoxy in a spot that we need to do something at right now. Where did I put that stupid? This is an insulated clamp. It is used to protect cables that run through it. I want it to go the other way, because why wouldn't I? So my ladder is a little loose, so I wanted to 5-minute epoxy it to make sure everything stayed in place. And I forgot I needed to put this through it. Hopefully the threads are just enough to catch. All right. Folds the other way, doesn't it? That's fine. All right. I'm gonna give this a couple of minutes to do its thing. I suppose we could just take care of the rest right now, because the rest is pretty easy. We pull you around so you can see what's about to happen. So if you look way down here, there's a hole. I don't know if you can see that. So way down there, there's a hole. This just gets fed into the hole. The original packs did this. The Spirit packs have a tube like this. So I want to twist it to give it a little more character. But that should be it for the ribbon cable. It's actually pretty easy to put in. Now that the ribbon cable is out of the way, we can do the last blue wire. In theory, there it is. Right? It's got the same end the other one does, but it's got kind of a 45 because it goes right in here. And it goes over the ribbon cable, which is why I didn't want to do it right away. Because I wanted to make sure this was in the way because I didn't want to fight with it. And just like everything else, put some 5-minute epoxy on it, lock it in place, walk away for a bit, and let it do its thing. For the bumper, I need a bolt that's like super long and super thin. I don't have one. What I do have is threaded rod. So I put a nut on the end. I'll feed this all the way through. Mark it. I'm going to see something first. Hold on. All right. Sorry. I have carriage bolts. I wanted to see if, or not carriage bolts, I have Chicago screws. I wanted to see if maybe one fit on the end. Doesn't. Because that would have been interesting. But since this threaded rod is way too long, I'm going to mark it where I need to cut it, which is right here. I'm going to grab a bolt, thread the bolt on eventually. What the bolt does when I cut this, it's going to mess with the threads. That is my new die to rethread it. I'm just going to walk over the bandsaw, cut this, put everything back together. The hose, it's just a small length that's fed into this tube. And it's going to be secured over here. Let me show you what I did. So I don't have a spot for the tube to go in. I could cut a hole and feed it through, but I just threaded a bolt. I'm going to put that in, and then I'm probably going to coat the whole thing in a lot of hot glue just to hold it in place. I mean, it's fine. The bolt itself could hold it in place. So this is a clippered valve. We're going to install it. First thing I have to do is drill a hole for the center. Got a bit for that. So I'm going to line this up as best I can. I'm just going to eyeball it. Do the other side, do the other one. Here we go. I'm just going to tighten that from the bottom. So I ordered my stickers, right? And they're not here yet. So nothing to do with the person who shipped the stickers. I ordered them from Etsy, and I'm going to put their link in the doobly. They shipped them right away. It's just, you know, I'm ahead of where I'm supposed to be right now. So they're showing up tomorrow. I can't wait to put out the video. So stickers are not. Little silver plate and the little brass tube. It's the ion drip, I think, or something like that. The ion tube. That's not there because my buddy said he's going to make me one. Awesome. The little knobby is not there because same guy. Again, I'm like a week ahead of where I should be because the electronics didn't work and I had to jump forward. So everything everybody has promised me is perfectly on time. I'm the one who's off in this situation. But other than that, it's done. I am super happy with it. Whoa. I would love to have had lights flashing right now. But that's an electronic issue and that's on me again. Everything is in place except for this, and some stickers. That's all right. If you want to see all those, probably the next video. I'm not sure if I'm tackling the electronics or the Alice frame next. We'll see. We're going to play it by ear. Whichever one I'm better at, I suppose. So, thanks for making it to the end. I feel like I should be saying more, but I think that's all I've got. So I'll see you next time.